Park, voice of the Orange, joining us here on the show as we head into a bye weekend. What's up, Matt? How are you today?
I'm good, guys. How's it going?
We're doing well. I've got to start you off with the hard-hitting question. What do you think of Paulie's mustache? What do you think of the fact he's not going to shave it until SU loses?
I try to pay as little attention to Paulie as possible. So the mustache, I think, is kind of a Ted Lasso look at the moment.
Definitely.
Don't know where it's headed, but I think everybody would be excited if he has to keep it for quite a while.
Yes, that is what we're hoping. But we have to. Somebody has to inform Fran Brown that this is a thing,
well,
Paulie.
That leads us to our next question. Like, my mustache shouldn't be exciting. The team should be exciting. And what do you think it's going to take to get fans to buy in on this, that it's a real thing happening in front of them?
That's the million-dollar question. We're working on that all the time. I'm not certain that I know the answer. We could do the whole show on it and the whole week of shows on it, as you guys have. This is a show-me community. And Fran Brown, by the way, is fully aware of that. They need to be shown. They need to see it again. So it's probably, another big marquee win or two or four or another bowl trip and those types of things. People are waiting. It's the way it is. And I think their patience will be paid off on. I think there's some people who just aren't inclined to buy tickets for whatever reason, if that's where you're going. And it's all building. There's only 2 weeks into this season. I think there's a lot of excitement ahead. But yeah, there's got to be some growth.
But Matt, let me ask you another question. If you were watching that game on TV, we were watching it live there. The aesthetically pleasing football they play compared to what we're used to in this town, like, you're not going to see Kyle McCord for more than a year, right? You got to go enjoy this. You've got an NFL receiver catching his balls. You got Jeremy Payne or Trevor Pena out of nowhere. I'm talking Astros there for some reason. You got Trevor Pena playing great. Like, it was fun last week. Why would you not want to go watch it live when it's going to be on national TV?
You'd have to ask the people, you'd have to ask the fans. I mean, I am there. Trying to get everybody else there, too. I think people have gotten out of the habit of going to games, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Whether you go or not has to do with a lot of factors with your personal life and schedule and budget and all of those things. I mean, all I know from a marketing standpoint, storytelling standpoint, is it's the job of the program and department to make an appealing product, to work like hell to make sure that when people come to the game, they have a great time, they get their money's worth, and to make people aware of how they do that and how and why they buy a ticket and why it's in their best interest, and celebrate it and thank them profusely and hope they come back. So right now, it's obviously, there's room for improvement in that area, but there's plenty of people who go to work every day that are smart people that figure out what's it going to take, what more can we do, how can we, regardless of the performance of the team, but now that's working well too. How can you make everybody's experience as good as possible? How can you make the price appropriate for people? And I just think it's a fluid situation right now. I'm not going to get too down on attendance numbers at this stage. Obviously, I think it was laid out the other day. The Holy Cross game looks like that's going to be a sellout. Parents' weekend helping a lot there, and room for improvement on the Stanford game, but still time until next Friday night.
In terms of let me
just say this quickly. I think, I happened to be out just for a walk the other day when you guys were getting into it, and I think Steve, you spoke up, but somebody was surprised that the Holy Cross game is closer to a sellout than Stanford or the first two games. The reason for that, A, is Parents' Weekend, but what that tells you, Family Weekend, what it tells you is what actually determines people's ticket buying solution is not who's the linebacker for the other team or what's the ranking or the FPI position of the opponent, Georgia Tech or Stanford. Most fans couldn't name half the Syracuse players, let alone Stanford players or Georgia Tech players. We all sit here and geek out about it. You're going to be talking about Io Manor from Stanford next week. He's the one player, and Justin Lamson that people know about, but I don't think that's that's only a fraction of how and why the consumer comes through the door. There's a little something for everybody there, and the ticket selling and ticket buying has to do with, in my opinion, to what degree have you created an event, regardless of the fact that it happens to be football. And, we're in the fraction of people who geek out about the football part and want to really lean into that. That's not what everybody's in it for.
As for the product that you mentioned, we can debate how good Ohio is, how good Georgia Tech is, but you've been around this program for a really long time. Just from a Syracuse perspective, forget about who they played, but what you're seeing from a product perspective, is this different in your opinion? I mean, it looks different to me and Paulie. I mean, you've had a front row seat for so long. Does this product feel different to you?
100% it does. I shouldn't phrase it in terms of percentage. Absolutely, it looks different. The way I phrase it when people ask, and in the summer, and everyone asks, hey, what kind of team is it going to be? I say, look, they've got more good players now on the roster than they've had on the roster at any time in recent memory. And when I say recent, I'm going back quite a ways. I mean, I don't know that there's more pros, there's more all-conference caliber players on the team now. I would say you certainly have to go back to the three straight Big East championship run in 96 to 98, when there were pros on the field in every different position group. How many of these guys are going to be NFL stars and all that? I don't know. That's still projecting further down the road, but the talent and the roster is the best it's been in a very long time, certainly 2 decades plus. So that is headed in the right direction, and people want to say the schedule's cake or whatever. So I think that's what's led the optimists to put 2 and 2 together and have extremely high hopes for the year, which so far I don't think have been dampened. I don't know where you want to go next in terms of whether that should translate to ticket sales or that type of thing. We certainly hope that they do, and to each their own. But I don't think anything more needs to be shown to prove that the team is good.
You brought up the schedule. In terms of the rest of the ACC, Miami obviously looks legit. Clemson we're not sure about because they played the best team in the country and then played another team in Appalachian State that they should have beaten and beat them handily. Outside of those two, it seems like the ACC is kind of wide open this year. What do you make of the rest of the conference? A lot of parity. I don't want to say mediocrity, but it does seem like if you've got a good quarterback, which Syracuse does, you've got a favorable schedule, which Syracuse seems to have, that they could potentially finish in the upper echelon of the conference. What do you make of the conference as a whole?
Yeah, I think it's hard to say. It's September 13th. You're talking, in most cases, 2 games, and in the case of Louisville and a place like that, it could be 2 games against Cream Puffs. So let's let it play out a little more. I think you're right. I don't think there's anybody who's going to run away with the league. Miami, we all know, has probably underperformed its talent level in the last handful of years, so I wouldn't be chiseling the trophy for them just yet, even if they are the best team. Syracuse has had a tough time against conference opposition. Everybody wants to say the second half of the season. Yeah, there's a bunch of different causes for that. The schedule gets tougher. The competition is better. The injuries mount. Those things happen. We haven't gotten to the point this year where you're going to say it's not going to happen this year. The depth on this team is exceptionally better, so they're guarded against that in those ways. You want to go back to the original question about what's it going to take for people to believe. I think road wins and those types of things help. UNLV's not a layup, so it's still young. Let's see how it kind of plays out. I mean, I think you're largely looking at very likely looking at a Syracuse team that's going to be 4-0, going on the road for the first time and on the road for all of October, and that's when things have a chance to get really exciting.
All right, we'll delve deeper into Stanford certainly next week, but can you give us kind of a thumbnail sketch of the Cardinal to this point? Lost to TCU in the opener in a game that had a lot of mistakes in it from both sides, and then beat up on Cal Poly, which they should have. Give us the kind of the thumbnail sketch from where you sit of what this Stanford team's all about.
Yeah, I haven't even gotten that far yet to be completely transparent with you. I mean, Io Manner's All-American candidate, type players, wide receiver. I don't think their talent level is as deep as what Syracuse has right now or the bulk of the ACC. There's a reason they were picked last in the league. They hadn't won a home game in more than a calendar year until Cal Poly last week. It's just different. I mean, this whole thing about Stanford and Cal, I think is fascinating because here they are for their first go-around in the ACC, and now the Pac-12 is trying to revive. So they've got to be thinking about where their best interests lie over the next several decades. Everybody knows Stanford's academic reputation is beyond reproach. They won more Olympic medals than almost every country, So that's the brand of what Stanford is, and the respect that within the industry of college sports people have for Stanford. I think their football program in this particular week is going to have a tough go coming to the Dome to win here on a Friday night, but certainly not impossible from their perspective.
All right, Matt. Enjoy. Hopefully, you get some downtime this weekend. Enjoy the weekend off, and we'll talk to you again next week. Ramp it up for Stanford.
Okay, looking forward to it, guys. Thanks.
All right, voice of the Orange, Matt Park. And with that, we'll take a timeout. We'll open up the phone lines for a segment. If you want to check in at 315-437-7644. We've got Scoop Jardine, 1 o'clock. We're back after this on